Welcome, everyone, to another session on our 31-day endeavor over the topic of prayer. As we continue to delve deeper and deeper and deeper into this subject, we are at a portion of this endeavor where we're just kind of slowing down and wrestling with the voice of the Lord. Prayer, we've established and have hit on and drilled home that prayer is more than just a list of petitions that we ask God to do, but prayer is intimate, it is personal, it is communication, it is a conversation. You sit down to have a conversation with somebody and it's just one person talking, that conversation is going to be pretty dull, right? And by the end of it, you're just ready for it to be done. If prayer is a conversation, then does that mentality apply to prayer? Like, should prayer be a two-way thing? Like, we say that, like, theoretically, we say that prayer is a conversation with God, but if it's a conversation with God, conversation's twofold. How do you hear the voice of the Lord? Like, will God speak back? You search the scripture, and from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, God speaks back. How that raises the question, if God speaks back, how do we hear his voice? How do we know his voice? In the Gospel of John chapter 10, verse 27, Jesus simply says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Jesus says his sheep hear him, and they know his voice. What conditions does Jesus put on this? None. There are no conditions that Jesus put on this. Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice." My sheep know my voice. He put no conditions on it. He didn't say, after you've served me so many years, you know my voice. When your flesh is properly crucified, you know my voice. When you're without sin, you know my voice. When you serve in ministry, you know my voice. When you abstain from this thing, you know my voice. When you overcome this, you know my voice. He said, "My sheep know my voice," and he put no conditions on it. But yet so many people struggle with the voice of the Lord. I think the ideal of knowing and hearing the voice of the Lord is intimidating. But when we slow down and we look at our lives, I think it's pretty clear we know his voice. A lot of people struggle with the idea of hearing God's voice. But, I've found in conversations where people express to me hesitancy with the voice of the Lord, and I ask them, if God was sitting in the flesh before you, what would he say to you? And people are usually able to answer that question pretty quick. I sit down and think, like, God, if you were with me, what would you say to me? And you can hear pretty quick. You can articulate pretty quick. I don't think people have a hard time hearing God's voice. I think they have a hard time accepting that they hear God's voice, accepting that God's voice is there. I think they have a hard time kind of just surrendering their logic and accepting there is this God of the universe that dwells inside of me and desires to speak to me, right? Like scripture plainly teaches that as New Testament believers, the Spirit of God lives in us. But wait, the Spirit of God lives in us, but he doesn't speak to us? What? Like, what's he doing? Is he a mute? Like, is he a mime? The Spirit of the living God has made his home inside of us, and he desires to speak to all of us, no matter who you are and no matter what's going on in your life. As a New Testament follower of Jesus, the Spirit of the living God has made his home inside of you, and he has something to say to you. I think sometimes when you think of hearing God's voice, you think it's a loud, booming voice, right? You think of the burning bush and God speaking through a burning bush. It's not often like that. Oftentimes it's like Elijah on the mountain, right? In 1 Kings chapter 19, starting with verse 11, and it says, "And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by And a great and strong wind rent the mountains and break it in pieces, and break in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. The voice of the Lord is rarely loud. It's rarely audible. It's rarely an earthquake. It's rarely a wind. It's rarely a fire. 99 times out of 100 times, it's probably just a still small voice that speaks to your heart and directs your steps. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Psalms 37, verse 23. And it says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his ways. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. I have been young, and now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread." The first line in that series of verses, Psalms 37:23, "And the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord." That still small voice that whispers to the heart, it will direct our steps, right? The verse says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his ways. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand." I had a dream some years ago that I think encapsulates the heart of this verse perfectly. I had this dream where I was in this dark cave, and as I'm in this dark cave, I'm on this path that's ascending up. There's a staircase. It's dark, it's pitch black. I hold my hand in front of my face, and I can't see my hand. And I get down on my hands and my knees, and I begin filling the steps in front of me. I fill the step in front of me, and I take the step as I fill it, right? And just step by step, inch by inch, moving forward. Step by step, inch by inch, moving forward. As all of this is going on, right? Like, it's just one step at a time. It's just one step at a time. And that's often how the voice of the Lord is. It's a still small voice that speaks to the heart. It doesn't plainly lay out this 20-step program that is A, B, C, D, E, F, right? It's not this crystal clear map that lays out one destination to the next destination. Oftentimes the voice of the Lord is the still small voice that simply directs your next step. Trust the voice of the Lord. Trust the still small voice that speaks to the heart. Trust that the scripture is true and the Spirit of the living God lives inside of you, and you are his sheep and you know his voice. There are no conditions on it. You are a child of God. You know the voice of God. Be still and listen and allow him to direct your step.